So I'm in conversation with the lovely Atika Chohan. Atika is known for several beautiful films that we watched. Chhapak, we can start with Chhapak. We can talk about Margarita with a straw, Waiting. Ulaj, we've also about Guilty and part Agra as well, which I watched recently and was blown away. I'm sure I know it's won a lot of accolades across festivals in the world. And yes, and I had the chance to meet Atika and spend some lovely time with her in the hills of Himachal at a lit fest that we were both together. We could spend good time there. So, well, it was lovely knowing her, and now I'm very happy to speak to her like this. So, Atika, tell me what's going on right now and what is the current project that's keeping you very busy?
First, I want to say thank you so much for getting me to this really hot spot, because I've been waiting this for a while, and I couldn't have obviously initiated this, but who doesn't want to be interviewed by you, Manju? So this is such an honor. It really feels like this is a big milestone in my life. I've been a big fan of you, and I was really so fortunate to have made your acquaintance at Shoolini. We had such a good time, and we were such a great tribe of people there, and this it was so nourishing and stimulating. I've carried that warm place with me since, and I'm so glad it's been 6 months since, and I'm so glad we're finally resuming our conversation. What keeps me busy at this moment is proactive work, development work on 2 projects, which are while there are 3 active windows of 3 projects, but 2 that are proactively being developed. One is a series and one is a film. The series is an adaptation of a gender crime, limited series of a book which we are adapting from nonfiction to fiction for a limited series. And the film, while I'm not at liberty to disclose the subject, but it is feisty, dynamic, energetic, period historical.
Okay.
I am very willfully taking a very populist take on it, so that it's hugely accessible. It resonates with the class and the mass. So maybe because that doesn't come too naturally to me, I have to put more effort, because I do want people to watch it. So that's proactively what I'm doing lately. Thankfully, at the beginning of this, I concluded a lot of lingering projects. One of them was Ulaj. One of them is another script that I've written for a very known production house and producer, and it's also a literary adaptation. We're waiting for announcements to that. So this is the work that is in development at the moment, but the yield of the previous years has now begun to come this year. So I was really relieved to know that 2 of my films are in festivals all over the world this year. It began with Agra going to Cannes this year, and then there's another film called Sahela, which is an Indo-Australian project executive produced by Dev Patel, and it's an intense relationship drama about an immigrant couple in Indian Australian community. So this is the canvas right now, space like this, and it's been very busy.
Okay, lovely.
Thank God.
But the work,
right.
Yes. But as a writer too, it is the fact that you choose projects. It's not you would have said no more often than you would have said yes, and we had this conversation. So I wanted you to tell me how tough was it to say no and believe in your conviction, only do the cinema that you believe in.
I mean, because it directly affects your sustenance and livelihood and your confidence and prospects of your career. Basically traditional reasons why anyone would be fearful of rejecting lucrative offers from powerful people. So that setup is pretty self-explanatory. But the other problem is also I think one thing that people don't talk about enough is the process itself of hiring writers, and the kind of powerlessness that writers generally experience while creating. There is just no creative stakeholding in the commission projects that you get, like, and sometimes you don't get treated like an equal. You get shunted. Your voice is not important. You are just asked to like push pen, and so stuff like that. So essentially, I think somewhere you also need to keep continually bargaining for more autonomy, even on commission projects. The other thing is, of course, the other way to go about these things is to create projects. The problem with that is that's just delays, you from getting paid. Like, you never know when you get paid on a speculative project, which is why everyone writes a speculative project hoping that this would turn their fortunes, and then they will start attracting more commissioned work. So anyway, the idea is to become a commissioned writer in the industry to work. And because cinema is a very collaborative business. I mean, I'm speaking the basics at the moment, but this is the larger procedure of going about things. So for me, a person who had like very defined limitations in that sense, because I knew I could negotiate outside of who I was experientially, and that, and I did not look at it as a limitation, but I was told by the world that I brought in a certain kind of limited understanding of the world, because my feminism, which was actually I thought was something that was my lens, was looked at as the reason why I wasn't good enough for every project. The thing is, in the beginning, of course, this really was a very sobering thought to, like, to understand that this is why you are not everyone, you won't be in circulation, or you're not a popular writer, or you'll never be. And what I realized is that this auto subtraction that was happening for me right at my entry level was a blessing in disguise. A lot of the flack work actually automatically disappeared because they didn't think capable. I didn't
it came
look like
to you. It came sealed.
Yeah, it's like, so now as I look back, I'm like, actually, I've never had to deal with that kind of like monstrosity, because I mean, they just looked at me and they're like, she's speaking another language only. So thankfully I got like left out. And that also,
but it worked for you. That isolation helped you to be more strong. I mean, stronger in your own voice.
Because there were no opportunities for me. There were none. Like, for people like me, there were very scarce opportunities. So I think the good thing is that I entered the industry when I was already like in my early 30s. So, I was like proactively only writing when I was around 32, 33. In fact, Margarita, my first film, released when I was 33 already. Like, I'd gone to the film school when I was around 26, 27. And so for me, that journey of 5 years of struggle and all that, so by the time the first film was releasing, I was already around 32, 33. Now it's 10 years since like proactive struggle since then. And what I feel is, I think that maturity helped. Like, because I had already waged those wars with a lot of people in different industries. This idea of what happens when you're a feminist, how to negotiate that and all of that. So I brought in some sort of like resourcefulness to negotiate spaces. And it's a tragedy that a woman has to be resourceful to negotiate her politics. But then, I mean, it is what it is.
No, but good. You stood your ground, and your repertoire of films talk about it themselves. And also sometimes we need innovation, right? We need disruptors. We need people who are going to push the envelope and say, no, look at it this way. There's enough of this. This is also perspective. So I'm sure they are the ones who have to lock horns with a lot of establishments. It's not easy. But then the fact that you succeeded, it's on a world arena, your films are talked about.
So, I mean, it is always like it is always a lot of hustle at the level of like the early gatekeeping that I have to negotiate with. And literally the one way to approach these things is to be very quiet about my intentions. Like I never reveal my
That's a
cards
good
to.
one. You don't tell people what you are about.
I
Yeah.
never say feminist about, because I always say fun. Because the idea is that is the only way to get around things, because it's literally like it's I've just realized the other way is very hard. It's also won't ever let me mobilize an effective real change on ground. The other thing I realized about that is, like, I have, for example, a film like Agra, or I've worked on films which are seen by niche audiences, and while they have extremely effective messaging and they're extremely unsettling, the problem is there is no point teaching the educated. I mean, it's not like it's pointless, but
Yeah,
I mean, what is the point of like reforming the
You're not
world
increasing your audience, is what you're saying.
No, it's what is the point of evolving the, like, they're
Already,
already
yeah,
very evolved, and
yeah.
like, what do I gain by like giving lessons of misogyny, or like to the French audience? Like, for me, at some level, it feels ineffective,
Yeah.
or told in a vocabulary that is only understood by people who are like extremely, educated or erudite. While that is obviously very heartening, it loses, I realize, because I have chuckled the other side, because when I wrote for Commercial Intelligent, or wrote for mediums where I forced a money dialogue out of myself, I forced myself to do things which I thought I was not capable of, and I saw the impact of it in the audience. I saw how the crowd reacted. I saw how regular people reacted. I saw how they cried. I read DMs after a film like Guilty released. It has changed me forever. Constitutionally, genetically, I think it has impacted me, Manju. Like, it has given me a reason to live. Like, it has, because I realized that is where the change comes from.
Yeah.
I actually realized that this is somewhere in between. It's always going to be a hybrid game, and it's okay for me to have songs. It's okay for me to have romantic heroes. It's okay for me to write male narratives, as long as I'm able to do something in those two scenes, because this will be accessed by a lot of people. So I'm not exactly like dying to write a Jawan, but then I'm like, why not? Because I want to write a Jawan with maybe a female vigilante as the central protagonist. That's what I want to do now. Like, so essentially the idea is to, because I look at it like maybe 15 years of active work life, and that's not enough time for a creative. That's just like actually 7 more projects, 7 more projects. And how much, so this is it. So I look at it like, okay, this is the time left, this is what you have to do. And I wasn't born in France, I was born in Purani Delhi. So coming from there, I have only that much time, and this is my bandwidth. So I become extremely realistic. And also, like, I feel my creativity right now is about subtraction. It's about leaving out everything that's not realistic.
Right.
And that's at level of policy, procedure, politics, where I live, what are people doing. So it's, I'm more about finding solutions in what I can. So this is who I am right now. And my storytelling also somewhere comes from this. My protagonists also behave like this. Everyone's negotiating.
Right. Also, the subaltern features are very is central to a lot of your characters that you write. So also the fact that you need to tell these stories, because nobody really thought about them. Nobody really, they did to a certain extent, but it was always a news item somewhere that you feel pity about, and then you just leave it. But you created stories out of them, and that includes, and that goes. And the interesting thing is, you also tackle things like ageism. You also tackle things like conventional relationships, which can be challenged. They need not be a defined name to a relationship. When we see Waiting and the relationship between Nasir and Kalki, it's a very beautiful relationship. It's a beautiful understanding, bonded with pain. Chhapak, for that matter, or all of these have characters which have a heart. Apart from the fact that they go on with their lives, there is a little soul in them. There is a little there's more. You can touch them probably, and you probably know somebody like that, or you probably are reminded of a character like that. So it comes from a deep sense of understanding or watching and observing people, I'm sure. What I wanted to ask you was, the subaltern stories are central to your life, to your characters. So is that something that you also look at?
I mean, it perhaps comes from an experiential reality. Like I was born in a family where I've seen a lot of dysfunction, and I would like to edit it in a way where I'm not really like making it too uncomfortable for people who are watching. So I'm really cautious of boundaries here for them. But generally, I'm saying that it was a tough childhood, and of course I've seen like penury. I've struggled for money. I've like kind of like raised myself on my own, and so I have seen myself like working out things and negotiating through class and caste spaces and gender spaces all my life. Like I have tried to negotiate. I think the thing that I bring to my stories is something that I have wielded or like engaged with all my life, which is how to assert myself in a gentle way, and which is and also like in an effective way, while I also don't take away from someone else's fair share. Because I've always found myself in a crowd where people are like scavenging for things, and I've just how to now create a sense of fair play for everyone. So I think I became a problem solver from very young. This problem solving has helped me participate
Negotiate your way.
with a lot of courage. I think and what now looks like a happy, cool word, courage, actually is like
a struggle at one point.
It's a struggle or like sense of survival, right? So you have no option. So now when you act, I think the thing about the struggle is that once you accept that that's your predicament, you don't question it, but you just try to make it more joyful. That's where the humor comes from. The humor and the drive, it comes from like, okay, now this is our life, and like
how do we work this out?
Yeah, just like suck it up and like
move on, find ways to
yeah. So right. That's sort of because that was also just the transition from another city to this, and then to make a space for yourself within the industry, and not try and make a space, Manju. Like I actually am still not trying to make a space. Like after Chhapak release, which had a Deepika Padukone in it, my agent and everyone around me was hoping that I'm not going to do a blockbuster after blockbuster, and actually I've ran in the other direction, where I have done indies one after the other, and fiercely my fortune also is such that it doesn't let commercial cinema ever thrive in my life. Like even if I try to do those projects, they fall through the cracks or something happens. Even my series, they just die. So the things that work for me magically, or like I destiny wise too, are projects which are, I feel, are more grounded, more earnest, and more rooted in subject wise, also in reality, and the project business wise also, they are more real. Anything that's a bit humongous, it just like things keep falling apart. Like, so I've stopped taking that kind of ambition. Thankfully, I never took that ambition too seriously for myself. And I, at this moment, and I have become extremely committed to my inner compass, like I've never been before. I think the fact that I have 2 films in many festivals this year, it's just made me very clear for my own inner compass that I am only going right. to
your direction is correct.
Yeah, I'm only going to pursue stories, human stories, which I like to do. Not that which I know, like they say, write what you know. I want to write what I like to see. That's what I do. And that has been my philosophy and ethos from the beginning until my dying day. I write films which I want to see in the world. If they work, or they don't work, that's not my lookout. My lookout is to ensure that whatever skill I've been brought on, I do it well and effectively, and that's it. And then my commitment is over. I know when I see my peers, sit on like these major announcements or like get heap of praises for the work they do. Of course, on a daily basis, at a human level, it is sometimes a little unsettling to see, to recognize it as competition from time to time. But then you realize there is no competition. Like it, of course, it takes some work to understand that there is no competition. Your competition is only yourself.
Your last
and
one.
your like you do your own thing, and you are going at your own pace, and everyone else is doing what they can, because they also must be negotiating something to be to even doing like stuff which is not that evolved. So basically, largely I am just like, I mean, outside of something that's extremely politically regressive, which I or like extremely sexist, I largely stay out of everyone else's game. Like I have no opinion on what anyone else.
I want to know who are the Indian, I can say Indian filmmakers, women, who you look up to and you've liked their work. It could be writers, it could be filmmakers, it could be.
There's one filmmaker who I really, really like and who I'm working with at the moment. Her name is Ruchi Narayan, and she was the co-writer of Hazaro Khwaishein Aisi. She made a film called Kal, and then she's co-written Guilty with me. She was the main writer of Guilty, and then she wrote me in later. And then now I'm writing a film, which is my story for her. I love working with her. I really admire her directorial vision. I like the process with which she works. She's a real egalitarian. So I really like her work. I would want the world to see what we are creating right now. So I'm really hoping for that to, sort of work out the way we think it should. I really... Indian filmmaker. I think I really like Konkana Sen Sharma's work. I really like Aparna Sen's work. I think I liked some of Sai Paranjpe's films, but then while I also read somewhere that she said that she's not a feminist and that was never her lens. Whatever she was doing it right. So I love the cinematic take that she had on really on difficult subjects. In the current regime, I feel everyone else, I mean, I like them in small bursts, but I'm a little, like, I sometimes feel that I'm a little misaligned to what other people are trying to say. So especially peers, like I see everyone is evolving, so I'm not sure if I'm a fan. But sometimes I'm a fan of certain diligence that people show, or certain commitment. Like, for example, I love Zoya's commitment to her cinema. Like I just love it. I am a big fan of that. But so this is what I admire in people as different qualities, and I love when a woman wins. I love it when a woman wins. Like recently we Ulaj has been shot by a female DOP, Shreya Dev Dubey, and I am such a fan of her work. Like, she's shot this film called Cat Sticks, and then she shot Thar, which is a very alpha male film. And then she's shot Ulaj, and from what I've seen, my God, like, hats off. So I'm always on the lookout for female artists who are bringing something new to the game, like some gaze, something new, something interpreted in something really peculiar way.
Right. What about direction? What about making your own film? Will that happen?
It's on the cards, but in a way where it doesn't interfere with the current dukaan. Like, the idea is to not disturb where I am with what I am trying to do. I do know that there are stories that are deeply personal, which I would like to take a personal stab on directorially. So I feel that I'm a few years away from it. Like, even though a lot of my well-intentioned colleagues, peers, friends have asked me this question repeatedly, now it's time for you to direct. I feel, because I'm a bit of like a stickler for perfection sort of a person, if or maybe this is a gendered thing, if I can't look back to my own self, like, I won't forgive myself. So I wouldn't want to do it till I'm really sure of what I want to direct and how I want to direct and why I want to direct. While I am also still like, I think I'm still like finding myself as a writer. Like, I feel there is something more that's gonna come out of that. So I feel it needs to be a little more organic, and it can be a little slower. Because what I am committed to is growth, creative growth. I'm okay to like pause it, and then beach mein maybe I can become a showrunner. Idea is to create more leverage and power for my voice. If that can come to me, actually, if I find a director who allows me to be myself and who gives me equality in like creative stakeholding, maybe I'll never direct, because that's not important for me. What's important for me is that my work doesn't get destroyed. That's the only lookout. So because there is so much generation loss from writing to direction, or sometimes it's a generation switch, like it's like literally someone else, you're not in agreement with what the director has done. Those are the only times where I feel ab karna padega khud, like, and it's a fleeting feeling. Like, and then the best thing is that writers can work with different directors. It's not like I'm obligated to work with one director all my life. So that keeps me hopeful. But the idea is that I'm going to continue to be in a bit of like this and like undecided space for a while, without pressuring myself, and see what can I do to strengthen the spaces which I'm already good at before I move to that next. Because I feel there is no reason. A lot of times writers become directors largely because they feel
they don't have
recognized. Maybe there is a way to flip this game first. Because that would be, maybe I'm not a good director. Maybe I'm not meant to be, like
possible.
So,
but so the next question is related to this one. So how do you protect your inner compass? The inner compass, how do you protect it? Because that's responsible for your direction and the way you think and the way you write. How do you protect that inner space?
I mean, it is it is not easy, and that's actually 80% of my work every day. I am someone who brings a lot of homework home every day, Manju. But then that's exactly what my curse and my gift is. This sort of like constant prescience, or like this constant hypersensitivity, while it layers everything, like the meaning you read of life, you bring that. It is a big burden in your interpersonal dynamics, and it's a big curse to like live, because you are getting so many times you are feeling abrased, or like you're hurt over things that people have no idea that they are wounding you. They're just like unintentionally sometimes insensitive. Now you have to step away and look at that also as part of your homework. I have for a long time, even till like recently, even till now, but I've just become better and better at this. Like, I've become better at recovery. I've become better at forgiving myself and others. And I've just become reasonable and practical. Like, I think one way to look at it is, while I may still be very hypersensitive, I've just also become practical, because I think I'm in deep recognition of the paucity of time. Like, I'm in deep recognition of the fact that I'm 42 and I don't have enough time left for nonsense. So I just like try to get out of things really quickly. Like, okay.
Yeah, you can't linger on and keep it burning in your head. You'll have to snap
quickly,
out.
yeah. So you quickly recognize, okay, something's going wrong here, like something violatory is on the card. So either you preempt it, or you find a way to quickly address
You
it,
have boundaries
or
that you keep. Yeah.
yes, or you just step away very quickly before the violation
It
happens.
comes, yeah.
Like
You're also
one of the,
perceptive that way, because that's exactly, yeah.
I mean, that's what life
These are
experience
questions
has.
I want to ask myself, so I'm asking you. So I am sure you get that.
I mean, and the thing is, as women, this kind of, the thing is, we always going to be someone's fool. Like, so I never de-recognize that. While I may have reached this part of the journey, there's something more complex coming my way, because obviously that's life's way to evolve us, and life will always
They'll throw,
play us out. Yeah, it will always outfox us with however much I may how many smarts I may bring to this, how much I may therapize myself. There's something on the curve there that is going to throw me off, and I wouldn't know how to now reassemble this part of me. I did not know that I would feel this way. And maybe this is the most exciting part of being alive. Maybe this is the part that kind of like keeps you giving stories. And the lessons are what make storytelling interesting, because there's always that's a little more that can be peeled in that. That is where a lot of times people have asked me, Ari, how do you get into these,
the minds
this
of
kind of negotiation? But that's because if you live, actually, you don't have to read books. If you live life deeply, that negotiation is there with you everywhere. The time you get out of the house, to the staff that comes to work, to your house, to your neighbors, how they perceive you, to the landlord whose wife is always snappy at you. So it's like it's a constant negotiation, and if you look at it with some patience and empathy, there is a story everywhere. That is exactly, you don't even have to create full-blown characters, but I think just getting into the subtextual reference of everyone who you are like, you are kind of like sharing the timeline with, you'll realize that everyone is going through a cycle of their own, right? Like they are in a evolution cycle, so they behave from places which are actually, I know in reality, when you act in real, if you have to cohabit a space with a person who's deeply complex and effed up, it is extremely hard. You would want to distance yourself from such people, but they make for
excellent copy
characters. They make for most interesting characters if they are the people who tell you, which you can't think. Sometimes when you
trigger things in you which others wouldn't ever. And because their compasses are aligned that way. So, and you probably discover more about yourself when you align safely, whatever, or unsafely with them.
Yeah, that unsafe place is like a place of great tension and storytelling. Like it's really the place which opens up, like, because the number of possibilities that are there in your head, that now this can happen and that can happen, are all potential premises, right? So there is a story everywhere if you look at it like that. So while I make it seem light, it is not easy to live life on a daily basis, knowing that everyone's got a trigger, everyone's got a right now everyone's a bit on the tipping point.
Yeah, they're all hyper. They're just waiting to jump at you. I mean, the patience, I think, I think patience is really dwindled.
Yeah,
it's gone somewhere because of instant gratification. Probably they want everything is just now, and the cancel culture, and no, if it doesn't align with me, get this out of my system. The kind of
that's also
chances
like
that you're giving yourself or others is I think it's dropped. And I think, yes, but it was lovely speaking to you. I think this is just the start of many conversations. And well, this was the most stimulating conversation I've had, because again, talking to a writer is a different experience altogether, because you think, and when I go back to this interview, I think I'm going to have some more ideas for sure. So thank you very much.
But you've asked me such amazing questions, and this didn't feel like an interview at all. And it felt like I'm talking to you like, over a coffee. And this is exactly what I wanted for this evening after like a tough writing session
So
this
I'm
morning.
so happy to speak to you, and it was
This is
lovely. We have to
touching.
catch up more and come to Dubai soon. We'll catch up here, or I'll come to Bombay. I'll surely see you. I know we're going
Yes.
to have long conversations because, well, it's lovely just talking. There's nothing there. It's conversation, and then yeah, so much to learn, so many boundaries to push in our own way without showing that, oh, we are pushing the boundary. It's just the
Yes.
way you live your life. So thank you for this lovely, very free-flowing, effortless conversation. And
Thank
I'm
you,
sure
Manju. Thank you.
and I'm sure a lot of people would be interested in knowing your mind. This is a writer's mind. So yes, thank you, and hope to see you soon. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.